A young man came in and said he believed the father of his girlfriend's child was not him. It was his own father. His own dad. Living in the same house. Sharing space with the woman he loved. And he wanted answers. Now before you make up your mind about any of these people, let me tell you the full story. Because nothing in this case was as simple as it sounded when they first walked through my door. My name is Patricia Monroe. I was a family court judge for 23 years. I am retired now. And this case stayed with me because it had every element that makes a courtroom genuinely complicated. A 3-year-old little girl named Jordan caught in the middle of it all. A mother who kept telling the truth but kept telling it in ways that made it sound like she was hiding something. A young man who had stayed away from his daughter for 3 years and was now suddenly ready to fight for her. And a father accused of something he said never happened. I had a lie detector test and a DNA test both waiting in envelopes. And I was going to need both of them before this was over. Amber and Zachary had known each other since they were 14 years old. High school sweethearts in the way that only teenagers can be. Intense and consuming and completely certain that what they had was the realest thing in the world. They had an on and off relationship that stretched across years and across states. At some point Amber moved to Georgia to be with Zachary and his father. She had wanted to be closer to him. He said he did not know she was coming. She said she had messages on his mother's phone proving he had told her to come. That particular disagreement was never fully resolved in my courtroom. What was not in dispute was this. At some point during all of that moving around and living together, Amber became pregnant. And a little girl named Jordan was born. Zachary was not there for the birth. That detail alone told me something about what kind of relationship this had been. Amber said he simply did not show up. Zachary's family said there was another man at the hospital who claimed to be Amber's fiancé. Amber denied that completely. Said no such claim was made. Said the only people in that delivery room were her mother and the man they were describing, who was present but was not presenting himself as her fiancé. I looked at the birth certificate myself. No father's name was listed. Nobody had signed it. That was the only document I could look at and trust completely in that courtroom. Now here is the part of the case that I want to be fair about. Because Zachary had a reason for his doubt that went beyond gossip and rumor. His own father had told him, apparently more than once, that he and Amber had shared a bed. Not in different rooms. The same bed. And Amber did not fully deny this either. What she said, and the story shifted slightly as the hearing went on, which did not help her, was that they worked different shifts, that they shared space out of necessity, and that nothing inappropriate had happened. I asked her directly, was it appropriate to be sharing a bed with your boyfriend's father on any level? And she admitted they had shared a bed at one point when schedules overlapped at her mother's house. She said nothing happened. She said it was purely practical. I told her plainly it does not matter what happened. The fact that it happened at all creates a question that did not need to exist. When you are in a relationship with someone, you do not share sleeping space with their parent. That is a boundary that exists for a reason. And Amber crossing it, regardless of her intentions, had given Zachary a question that had now gone unanswered for 3 years, and had kept him out of his daughter's life in the process. But I also had something to say to Zachary, because 3 years is a long time. Jordan was 3 years old, and in 3 years Zachary had been to see her 3 times. 3 times. His family said Amber was blocking his access. Amber said Zachary was not trying to reach her, that he had not called, had not asked, had not shown up. Both versions could not be entirely true at the same time. And the one who suffered for the confusion was a 3-year-old little girl, who was growing up not knowing her father. There was also the matter of the new boyfriend. Amber had a man named Tyson who had been in her life for 4 months, and had been helping raise Jordan every single day. I do not have anything negative to say about Tyson. A man who steps up for a child that is not biologically his is doing something admirable. But I did have to point out what the situation revealed. Tyson had been present for Jordan every single day for 4 months. Zachary had managed 3 visits in 3 years. Whatever the reasons for that, and both sides had their reasons, the child's daily experience of who showed up for her was not complicated at all. Zachary's mother Tracy had been in that courtroom fighting harder than anyone, louder than anyone. She was certain Amber was lying. Certain Amber had been with multiple men. Certain that her son deserved better. And some of what she felt was legitimate. Her son had been kept from his daughter and that was real and that was painful. But some of what she said crossed lines that I had to address. You cannot call another woman names in my courtroom. You cannot describe another person's character that way in a room where a child's future is being decided. I shut that down. Zachary's father Dennis was brought into the courtroom to address the accusation directly. And I want to tell you about that moment because it was one of the more unusual moments of my career. A father sitting across from his son's ex-girlfriend being asked whether he had been inappropriate with her. His answer was clear and immediate. He said he had never laid a finger on Amber. He said the accusation was demeaning to him. He said he was not that kind of man. Amber sat across from him and nodded. She said the same thing. She said Dennis was the only man she had ever called Dad. She said the idea of anything inappropriate happening between them was not just wrong. It was disgusting to her personally. She called him handsome for a 47-year-old man, and then immediately said that had absolutely nothing to do with anything because he was her father figure. I had to work hard not to smile at that moment. But the truth was, the lie detector test and the DNA test were the only things that were going to resolve what words could not. I called for the DNA results first. In the case of Marsh versus Belding and Belding, pertaining to whether Mr. Belding Sr. or Mr. Belding Jr. is the biological father of 3-year-old Jordan Marsh. Mr. Belding Sr. You are not Jordan's father. The room exhaled. Amber said thank you. Already knew that. Dennis nodded quietly. Mr. Belding Jr. You are her father. Zachary's reaction was immediate and genuine. That is my baby. That is my baby. He said it twice. And something in his face in that moment was real. Not performance, not relief from suspicion, but the specific feeling of a man who has just had confirmed what some part of him hoped was true. And then I read the lie detector results. Amber had been asked one question. Had she ever had sexual intercourse with Mr. Belding Sr.? She had said no. The lie detector determined she was telling the truth. Zachary heard that. He sat with it. And then he said something I respected. He said he was still disgusted that they had shared a bed. He was not pretending that was okay just because the worst thing had not happened. That reaction was honest and I understood it. But he also acknowledged what the results meant, that the accusation he had built 3 years of distance on had just been determined to be unfounded. Now here is what I said before they left my courtroom. I said I had no problem with a man who had enough heart to love a child that was not biologically his. What Tyson was doing for Jordan was a good thing and I meant that. But I also said to Zachary, you are her father. You have rights now. You also have responsibilities. And those responsibilities started 3 years ago whether you were ready for them or not. Zachary said he was ready now. That he had been trying to get to her. That he would step up. I hope he did. Because Jordan, 3 years old, completely unaware of everything that had happened in that courtroom on her behalf, deserved a father who showed up. Not 3 times in 3 years. Every day. Or close to it. The way Tyson had been doing for 4 months. The way a parent does it when they have decided the child comes first regardless of everything else going on between the adults. And I want to say something about Amber that I think gets lost in all the noise of this case. She was raising that little girl. Alone for most of it. In the middle of accusations that were being made not just by Zachary but by his mother. And based on a situation that Amber had contributed to through poor judgment but had not crossed the line on. She had let a man sleep in her bed who should not have been sleeping in her bed. That was a mistake. But it was not the thing they were accusing her of. And there is a difference. A significant one. between a mistaken judgment and the specific accusation of sleeping with your boyfriend's father. She told the truth in my courtroom. The lie detector confirmed it. And she had been raising Jordan with almost no help for 3 years before that truth was officially confirmed. That matters. It does not cancel out the poor judgment. But it matters. My name is Patricia Monroe. I was a family court judge for 23 years. I am retired now. And this was one of the stories I carried off that bench with me. There are more. I will see you in the next one.